What's up, everybody? Brett here, back today casting some more Total War Warhammer 2 replays. This time it's going to be a 3v3 submitted by Evil Sun's Big Mech. Thanks so much, man, for the submission. It's going to be, let's see, High Elves, Bretonnia, Wood Elves versus Greenskins, Dwarves, Empire. So you got kind of an, I don't know, it's kind of a weird mix-up. You're going to have a lot of range tools on one side and a lot of artillery on the other, perhaps. Let's go ahead and slow-mo it because we have a lot to go over before this battle starts. Not the least of which is the fact that I was told that this is considered nowadays to be an OP High Elf build. So I can already start to see why it'll be annoying, but we'll learn together whether or not it's overpowered. Apparently, Indie Pride made a video about this. I saw him post it, but I didn't watch it myself. And I thought, since this replay supposedly contained the dreaded build, that we would go over it together and judge for ourselves what about it, if anything, makes it overpowered. So the High Elf player, Evil Sun's Big Mech, is playing it. He's got 4 groups of the Illyrian Reaver Archers. Certainly annoying. They're fast. They're ranged. Yeah, they're sometimes impossible to catch. You basically have to have artillery to shut them down. You've got a Star Dragon and a Moon Dragon. Pretty deadly 1-2 punch monstrous units. And then you have Teclis. Teclis with all of his spells and abilities. The Potion of Teroi. He's got nearly infinite winds of magic when you put him on this Arcane Phoenix. Quite cool. And making up sort of the center line here for this army is going to be the Bretonians with their men-at-arms with shields. We've got some foot squires mixed into the mix. Genius, Brett. But yeah, they're going to be the heavy-hitting infantry units for this front line. We've got pox arrows mixed in with standard bowmen. That's how I like to do it as well. You only need 1 instance of poison, so you can go a little bit cheaper on your archers when you're playing as Bretonia. And then several groups of cav. You've got Knights of the Realm. Let's see, some questing knights here. So you've got some armor piercing and some anti-large. And then you also have Grail Knights. Kind of a weird build, if I'm being honest. And then Réponse de Mayonnaise, as she's sometimes referred to. But she's over here. She just has the Fleur-de-Lis banner. So she's got the 9 melee attack, 9 melee defense AoE buff for her. And then the Wood Elves here, who are getting torn into by a Hellstorm rocket battery, which is itself getting sniped. But they're advancing on this flank with Way Watchers. So good armor piercing. Very good range at 190. So it looks like we have 5 groups of them. 2 Way Stalkers, which is something you can kind of abuse. I mean, they do great damage if you use their... oh god, let's not fall into the deep pit with our camera. If you use the Arrow of Kurnos, which it looks like they both brought, that can be pretty devastating if shot against something like Black Orcs or some tightly packed Dwarven infantry. That can be pretty devastating. And the Empire is moving. First off, they deployed their Hailstorm rocket battery way too close. This has 440 range. It could have sat way back here and still hit every target on the map. So deploying it right here, while it looks safe because you're near this impassable terrain, it's actually not safe from ranged units. These Halberds and Sigmar Sons, the Unbreakable Regiment of Renown, are moving to plug this gap so that Durthu can't just stomp on through. A Bright Wizard and Karl Franz on a horse. Actually a very good, I was going to say, it's actually great versus Durthu. However, the Bright Wizard didn't actually bring any of the complementary spells that could imbue fire damage onto these Halberds or Karl Franz. But he does have the AoE magic. He has all of it, which is very redundant. I would not bring 3 AoE magic spells from the same lore. That seems a little bit loose, a little bit too much gold sunk into that. We've got a Witch Hunter here who can sit back and shoot Durthu in the face with his little pistol, while the Outriders, Demigryph Knights, very diverse army here. We've got Sterling's Revenge, 1 unit of Great Swords, and 2 Demigryph Knights, 1 with Halberds, 1 without. So Empire was going for variety here. It was just like a grab bag army. Front line of Black Orcs here, going to do some crumping with Grimgore. Followed close behind. We've got Night Goblin Archers right behind the front lines. Some Goblins probably just to absorb some damage where they can. And to perhaps protect the investment that is the massive Ragnarok Spider. So they're going to be advancing right down the center. I might hold back a little bit considering how much artillery firepower the Dwarves have brought. 3 Grudge Throwers. I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all. I would have spread them out a little bit. Just to give them room to move, room to fire, and if there's any type of unit that gets in the back line, instead of getting all 3 of your artillery pieces, you'll only get 1. However, I see now why they did this. Having a Master Engineer here It's a unit you don't see very often in multiplayer anymore, but they have ballistics calibration, which gives them accuracy and reload skill, as well as the Prospector Spyglass. And then you can also keep the Runesmith back here, and if they start getting counter-sniped, you can give them ward save. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, those Grudge Throwers are crushing these Illyrian Reavers, and I don't really blame them for choosing that as a target. Meanwhile, the Net of Amnatok is stopping these Black Orcs from charging into this front line, which is good because I'm sure he's lining up for either a big... oh my god, what's the name of that bound spell? I think it has a different name. Bound Fiery Convocation. Yeah, I wanted to say it right. You could get one of those down this line. It's not going to do a ton versus sort of loosely packed Black Orcs, but in a straight line it'll still do some kind of damage, but more importantly, probably going to go for some breath attacks. And let's see exactly what the deal is with that. It looks like Grimgore is the intended target, so maybe a double breath attack? I don't see any synergy as of yet with Teclis and these breath attacks. And for the dwarves, last but not least, guys, we got Ungrim over here, Unbreakable. I would also probably have sent him up the middle with the greenskins to help out, since it doesn't look like Bretonnia really wants to take this particular fight. Let's see, we've got 4 Quarrelers, so standard Quarrelers, very well armored, actually 5. And then Longbeards out on the flanks. I would spread them out once again a little bit better than that. Miners with blasting charges just walking right into the front lines. I think there's a lot of missed micro going on here. And there's also Orc-Boar Chariots that are definitely worth mentioning. And I see Grimgore is getting breathed on heavily. Breathing intensifies. And, yeah, Longbeard's great choice because they have charge defense against large, and the Knights of the Realm and such will not be able to bowl them over as you would normally expect. Now, normally breath attacks, not very good at hitting moving targets. And I mean, they aren't. But Grimgore being stuck here with the Net of Amnatok, this is pretty brutal. That he's just getting dumpstered by these breath attacks. How would you counter this? I mean, you gotta have artillery, you gotta have lots of range tools to make this type of play scary. You need to have magic, which I'm not seeing on the greenskin side at all. Perhaps magic missiles of some sort. Yeah, this is pretty dirty. This is pretty dirty play. Lord sniping is not something that I'm a fan of, that's for sure. And the Bretonians have the range tools to kind of counter skirmish the greenskins on this flank. The Empire is going to be sort of forced to overchase here while they eat a flock of doom. It's upgraded, and it's going to tear into all 3 of those units. These greenskins need to be divided a bit better. I would definitely use my goblins to chase down Waywatchers. That's a great use of them. To prevent them from sniping out this Arachnarok, which is now just standing still. Probably a failure of micro due to the fact that sometimes Net of Amnatok can be very disrupting, not just with your plans for your units to engage, but also with your micro. Right? It essentially drops the orders. Demigryph Knights with halberds charging into spears, not the best use of that. I'm seeing a lot of kind of noobish play, I'll call it. These Orc-Boar Chariots could be going up and around, getting into some mischief, but unfortunately that's not going to be the case. They're being a bit forgotten at the moment. And Grimgore using Get Back Here to boost his morale. He's going to charge in with his Arachnarok Spider. But it's probably too little too late. That breath attack is going to be devastating, perhaps more so to the Foot Squires than to Grimgore. And a Star Dragon breath attack on the Arachnarok Spire is going to make him want to quit. The Empire is moving up and around. 3 Spearmen here that are just there just to make it so that the High Elves have something of a front line, so that they don't get penalized for kiting too much. Durthu shooting into the back of these Halberdiers. And these are the standard Demigryph Knights who are still going to be quite powerful. Sword of Daith being used to lower their armor and deal some damage. They're going to be good versus Durthu, but not as good as, let's say, the variant that has the halberds, because they do have anti-large. It's probably actually the Outriders that are doing the majority of the damage, while these Wild Riders with shields are going to come in and just on that massive charge that they have, 67 charge, are going to deal with these Demigryph Riders and probably just drive them off the field. Oh my god, look at these goblins, these MVPs. They're driving so many units off the battlefield right now. For their 300 gold cost, that's a lot of value. These Grudge Throwers are still online, still appearing to target the Illyrian Reaver Archers. They're probably better targets on the field at this point. But, do what you gotta do to get rid of whatever units you think will cause you the most trouble. The Master Engineer looks like a pushover, but he's kind of not. He actually wants to be in melee more than ranged. I find his ability to kill ranged units is somewhat weak. He received a buff at one point where he could hit more models with every shot, just like the Witch Hunter did. But then I think they nerfed him back to the point where he's like a wet noodle and he never kills anything. He's got 1 kill, and the battle's been going on for several minutes now. The Quarrelers are sort of... yeah, this is one of the most disorganized battles I think I've ever seen. The only one who appears to be operating with a solid game plan is Evil Sons here. He's on the snipe out single target game plan. Looks like Ungrim got some nasty business, while Raponce here is dueling these Black Orcs. Looking to take out the high value targets, don't blame him. The Arachnarok Spider's pretty juicy. These Illyrian Reaver Archers are in sort of a safe pocket here, surrounded by friendlies. The Empire has been pulled and pulled. They don't really have the ability to chase anymore. They've lost... I think they've lost all of their... Nope. They still have this very tattered group of Demogryphs, but with no means to heal, they're going to be hard-pressed to find a place and a home in this battle. Full HP Greatswords. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to engage here either. They've got all these range tools that can shoot at them with impunity, and they've got Wild Riders who can charge them, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Witch Hunter, only 1 kill. Has not been used the most effective here. But now we've got Raponce and Ungrim fighting together in this pocket. But they are... yeah, they're going to get screwed. I mean, Ungrim's going down. He's unbreakable, which is why he's not already gone. Raponce here, you know, dueling Black Orcs, probably not the best use of her. The low kill counts on some of these units is so bothersome to me, because all that tells me is that they were put into positions where they could not succeed, right? Ungrim is a duelist of large targets, but he was thrown in early on in a bad fight, and as a result, he didn't really have the staying power to finish off Raponce. And then the mobility of the dragons made it so that they could be sort of everywhere at once, taking out Grimgore, taking out Arachnarok Spiders, and now the Way Watchers rule the battlefield. They've lost a lot of models, but they still have a lot of ammo, and there's really nothing on the battlefield to counter them at this point. It looks like the forces from this side of the battlefield are pulling back. Not a bad choice. Orc-Boar chariots being used to sort of screen out questing knights. That's not a good use of them. The questing knights, luckily for them, are very tattered. But all this cav has been in amongst these grudge throwers, shutting them down. The grudge throwers were probably the best used unit on this entire side of the battlefield. I mean, they earned their value. These Quarrelers here still alive, but bunched up in weird ways. I would probably do this... oh my god, this hurts me so much. As someone who loves to play the dwarves, having 4 groups of Longbeards walking right on top of each other in single file to go and engage. This is probably the best resource still alive on this side of the field. With all these Quarrelers, honestly, the dwarf player has almost not even been touched. He could just completely form another line right now with a little bit of help. We've still got the Sterling's Revenge. They're a powerful unit. We've got some crossbowmen, Outriders. There's still tools left here to consolidate and do something valuable, but this is bad. And they're all attacking one group of spearmen. This is... oh my god, I almost can't watch. Runesmith popping all his effects, but because they were so blobbed up, they were vulnerable to a Flock of Doom from Durthu, who's coming in hot now with really nothing to challenge him. All of these, you know, buffs have been used. Entrenchment has been used, which means these Quarrelers actually can't move. They have physical resistance, but that's not really going to save you from Durthu. 491 weapon strength, quite a lot. And the Runesmith is being sniped now. That's a good choice. Very weak unit compared to these dragons. But standing in and amongst a bunch of Longbeards would have been invaluable. He would have been providing them with just amazing buffs. I don't know what happened to these Longbeards to dunk them this hard, but something did. They lost a lot of HP here. I probably lost a big spell, or I missed a big spell being cast. But there's so much going on in so many places. The Empire tried to consolidate, it looks like, but they just got run down by Wild Riders, and they were sort of harassed from all the way from this location to here without any real reprieve, so they weren't really able to consolidate. The Dwarf player seems to have focused on getting his Grudge Throwers back online. Not a bad choice, but I would have more heavily focused on spreading out my Longbeards and spreading out my Quarrelers to maximize their efficiency. Pretty sure that was the Franz, right? Or was that Raponce? Reindeer and horses laying together. Is that Carl Franz? Oh, there he is. There's the Franz. And a summon here going off Pharaoh Manticore, chasing down the remaining Bright Wizard. There's not much leadership left. There's a Witch Hunter. Anything else besides the Witch Hunter? One of the Waystalkers got beat up. That's interesting to see. I mean, these Orc Boar Chariots had so much potential this battle. It would be a good use of them, perhaps, to run off 3 groups of Waystalkers. That's a lot of gold, at least, to help tip the balance of power somewhat in your favor. And rear charging now, being active with these Boar Chariots now, it's just a little too little and a little too late. They would have been very useful in the opening of this game. So, you know, I understand why this build is oppressive, but I've been playing since like day 1 of Total War Warhammer 1, and this is not the first sniping build that I've seen. Getting your cheap Footlord sniped is always something that you have to contend with, and I learned to play against it simply by playing on the ladder so much that basically everyone... I was like the only guy on the ladder for a long time who ever played without a Lord sniping build. So I would just run builds that were anti-Lord sniping builds. Builds that gave me tons of survivability on my Lord. I would run something like... This is something that's, you know, this is obviously way more recent. But not way more recent, but somewhat more recent. Like Mazdamundi, perhaps, on Zlok. So he's got like 10,000 HP. He's got his banner that reduces missile damage. I think he takes a great deal of reduced magic damage. He has his ward save bubble that he can pop. And then he has Apotheosis, which you can just endlessly spam. If you only bring that one spell, you can heal him like 20 times in the course of a battle. So, knowing that my opponents would try to snipe me, they would show up to battle with a build very similar to this, be it with Wood Elves and using Way Watchers, which was pretty popular for a while, to snipe with Way Watchers, or whatever, or to net you down with the Empire, and then to shoot you with cannons and handgunners. That was a pretty popular tactic for a while as well. But being sniped is something you should have some resilience to, and you should always expect for your opponents to play that way. Now, all you have to do is outlast a build like this. The Spearmen probably won't even want to come in because your opponent's going to be so busy trying to get maximum value with these Illyrian Reaver Archers, who at the end of the day, this is about the extent of their value. They'll get their 49 kills with their ranged tools. They'll kill your swordsmen, they'll kill your skeletons or whatever, and then they'll have to charge in, or else they're useless. And then what you're really talking about here is an extremely weak cav and infantry army, backed up by 3 highly vulnerable monstrous units. So you give me a faction, and I could probably come up with pretty easily a counter build that not only counters this build. If I'm playing on ladder and I see my opponent locks in, just insta locks in High Elves, I'm like, oh god, here we go. They're going to try to snipe me with this stupid build. Playing as the Dwarves, which is probably the faction that I know the best, a really good option to help protect against that. You can either, well, I mean, there's so many options, honestly. You go super cheap. That's one way to do it. You have your Lord, right? Your Lord is just a standard Lord completely stripped down. You give him a Runesmith with some ward save next to him. You stack them on top of some Slayers so that dragons, maybe they'll get you with their breath attacks, but they're not going to be able to dive down or else they'll risk being wrecked by Slayers. The rest of your army is Rangers, it's Dwarf Warriors, it's cheap, it's survivable, it's meant to outlast your opponent. You can bring some cannons, you bring, like I said, Rangers are pretty damn cheap. They're very cost effective, especially against the High Elves. But there's so many options. I personally love cannons. I'm an artillery guy myself. But guys, this was a fun battle, if a bit of an unorthodox one. I didn't feel like the skill level was particularly high. I look at Demigryph Knights with 0 kills. I look at forward positioned Hellstorm rocket batteries, which have unbelievable range. The Empire player unfortunately did not get much value. The Grudge Throwers, while poorly placed, were very effective. As they tend to be. I mean, they're a great unit that's almost impossible to mess up. Poorly managed front line could have very easily prevented a lot of the Bretonnian cav play, which itself wasn't highly effective. Yeah, just a lot of inefficiencies here. But thanks so much, Evil Sun's Big Mac. for sending me this replay. I think between you and Vision of the Blind, y'all probably executed your game plan the most effectively. Once again, this is another kind of snipey build that I wouldn't even be scared to play against, because whatever army I bring, I know I can deal with this. But in a 3v3, it opens up so many more possibilities, so it's kind of hard to judge army composition strictly based off of that, when you know that in a 3v3, there are so many other options. And then, sadly, the greenskin player bore the brunt of the kind of cheesy tactic, and still just had to sort of make the best of a bad situation. I will say my one critique would have been to get these Orc Boar Chariots in the fight much sooner, and you might have had more success shutting down, you know, range tools. There's a lot that they can do. They're a pretty effective unit as of the last patch. But guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm Brett. Channel's Goodtalk Gaming. And as always, y'all, I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, if you'd like, you can send replays to the Discord channel, Total War Replays. The link will be in the description down below. It's pretty easy to do, and I appreciate it when you do it. So, without further ado, take care, guys.